statistically control spending. I guess, we can only address the municipal part. I guess what I can say is we've got to just go department to department and make sure they're doing as much as they can with less money. We're doing a lot of cross-training, which is keeping head count down. I touched on earlier, Verona people, most people in Verona, they don't want to do without anything, but they don't want to pay for much. So that's the fine line. Constantly review the budget, constantly knock a number down if we can, and just stay on it. It's got to be a full-time job by the council, by the managers, by the department heads. It's a full-time job, and they constantly have to stay on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Okay. I've often heard at the council meetings that, someone will look at a line item on the budget and say, well, that's only another $20 per household for the taxes. Well, I got news for you folks. You can take the whole budget and break it down that way. This is only $20 here, $20 there. Joe Martin often uses the analogy of mice and elephants in the budget. Well, there's a hell of a lot of mice running around in our budget. And you really have to go, have the expert go in line by line by line and look and see where you can cut. And no item is too small. When you break out down our budget, there's tons of little minutia items in there. So you really have to dig in there. And Al just gave the example before, even the municipal court budget, which is a small budget, but it was just an example of something you could do. I'd also like to see a little bit more thinking outside the box in terms of working with the Board of Education. The recent, issue over the development of the fields sort of brought that to light to me again. We have a lot of fields in this town. They're not necessarily all controlled by the town government. The Board of Education has a lot of fields. The Board of Education claims they don't have the money to maintain them and fix them up. There are legal restrictions that are, that you can't commingle funds. But let's sit down with the Board of Ed in a meaningful way, have a joint meeting. We had one last year. We told each other how wonderful we all are. That was great. But now let's have another meeting where we sit down. What can we do as a town to improve the existing fields? Okay? Before, we go off and just say, we have to build something new someplace else. That's a little kind of outside the box thinking that I think we should be looking into. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roman?
Thank you. I use one very good example to show where I think we can manage things better. At the sewer plant, we staff the plant 7 days a week. What happens is we take the guys that work Monday through Friday, and then we pay someone overtime to work on Saturday and someone else overtime to work on Sunday. One time I stood up in front of the council meeting and I said, why don't you have half the guys work Thursday through Saturday and half of them work Sunday through Thursday, or whatever it would be, Tuesday through Saturday, sorry. And the answer is we can't do that. And I don't buy that. That's just waste. That's not helping anyone. That's money we don't need to be spending. And there's a lot of examples in there where it's not a matter of can't, it's a matter of won't. We need to make these decisions. We need to look at every last little dollar that we spend, because every one of those dollars comes out of our pocket at some point in time or another. That's somebody's tax dollar that we spend. I look at things in terms of houses worth of property taxes. You have house pays $2,500 of property taxes. $5,000 of flower baskets, which get talked about all the time, is 2 houses of property taxes for a year. Your entire municipal tax went to that. So we need to be able to look at everything, and one of the things that we run into is that the town manager is never willing to yield ground. There is no give and take. There is no back and forth. We hear, I will strenuously defend this budget. And that's not the way that it works. There has to be some willingness to let go of a couple of things, not to feel like you're standing ground in a battle. I deal with a budget where I work. I have an operating budget. I have a capital budget. I go through budget review several times every year. I go through mid-year reviews. $1,000 expenses get very deeply questioned. Capital projects. I have to pick through capital projects and cut back on them. If it doesn't make the capital budget, it's not that we just increase the capital budget, we cut the project back. We find a way to build what we need to do, but we build it for less. And you have to realize that not every single road can be plated in gold. And if we're willing to kind of adopt that mindset and pick through things and find a way to maintain quality of life and service while not wasting money, I think that'll solve the issue.
Thank you. Mr. DeHolt?
I think I'm going to hit this guy, because he must have been looking at my notes right over here, because I have down, how would, I knew that the question would come up at some point. How are you going to, you want to do tax relief, how are you going to, what are you going to do this? Well, the first thing I had on my list here was to reduce overtime and use flexible hours. We actually have one person in town who does that. We have the guy who waters those flower baskets, who doesn't get overtime, starts earlier in the morning, gets off earlier in the afternoon, so he puts his time in and does what they've rearranged his schedule, and so we get our water in our flower baskets, and it doesn't go on overtime. And you can take that, as he mentioned, in the sewer plant, in the water plant, in our staffing around, how we use our municipal workers. It can be done if there's a willingness to do it. That's one answer. Another answer I mentioned before is to go into the individual budget lines. I did an extensive look through in the 2012 budget. Man, there is so much in there that can be taken out of these lines, and we are paying for it as a part of our tax rate. Our tax rate just keeps going up because we've got some lines very overinflated. If anyone would like to see me after, at some point I would get my budget book and I'll show you what I did for 2012. It's almost the exact same thing for 2013. Another one, put a budget freeze on like the Board of Ed. Board of Ed runs short of money. They're on a different time schedule. They go July 1 to June 30th. But usually around November or December, they see they've got spending problems. So they simply tell the people, no more spending. That's it. You can't spend any more now. And then I could go on about even more, and I think my 10 seconds is up. But if you want to see me after the meeting, I'll be glad to explain it to you. But there's loads of ways that we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schwartz?
Thank you. What we do now, we do some stuff now. We have shared services with the Board of Ed and with other towns. We have cross-training of township employees. We have attrition of employees in town. We have revenue from the tower and video arraignment and shared services. But what can we do? We need to pay close attention to potential costs when negotiating professional contracts. If there are any large discretionary capital projects that will need to go for long-term debt, we need to put that up for referendum. We need to, I know this is labor-intensive and some people might balk, but just to get an idea of what they spend, we should have department heads produce a zero-based budget. A zero-based budget is, you don't look at last year's numbers to produce next year's numbers. This is what I see has been going on in the budget for years. Start at zero, build your department up from nothing, and see how much money it really costs without looking at how much you spent in the past. And as far as the elephants and the mice, that really caught my attention when that discussion was going on a couple of years ago. And what we need to do is we do need to exterminate the mice. We can see elephants, and we can develop strategies to deal with them. They gestate over a long period of time. But mice, they can multiply exponentially. And they hide between the walls. And they can do as much damage or more damage than an elephant can do. So we need to get rid of the mice. But, as I said, there's lots that we can do with the budget. And I'm hoping that the town council and the manager and the department heads will do what they can to cut the costs and not just keep increasing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manley?
I can't believe the flower baskets actually came up again.
Sorry.
And I like the flower baskets. Before I get into this other part, I think it brands the town in a very positive way. I think people driving through the town see it in a very nice light, and they say, well, this is a nice place. Maybe I want to stop here and eat. Maybe I want to stop here and shop. It just makes us look better. I'm really getting tired of hearing negative things about the flower baskets. We have much bigger things to worry about. A lot of stuff has been mentioned, and I agree with pretty much everything. We have, over the past 6 years, reduced our head count by 12 positions. Those positions are gone. And we've done that through attrition, with consolidation of responsibilities, the use of technology. We continue to look at that. We continue to look at shared services like what we do with Roseland, with our IT department and our code enforcement. We continue to sell water to other municipalities. We continue to do this sewer treatment like we do with Cedar Grove. We look for new and greater development to come in, so possibly some more pilot money that we might utilize to decrease the debt and decrease the tax rate. We are doing a lot of really good things with our money. We watch this money very carefully. I've said it publicly before. Dee Trimmer spends this town's money like it's coming out of her own pocket. Can we look more closely at the line items? Absolutely. Can we look more closely at the rolling surplus or free balance that we might keep? Can we lower that? Yes, I believe we can. I would be hard pressed to look lower than maybe $1.5 million. I think it's a comfortable number there. 2.5 might be a little too much. I don't know what the number is. I know we've had discussions about it and disagree possibly on the number, but it's important that we keep that surplus. I believe we stay on the path. We are doing a good job of managing this town's money, and I support what we have done and what we will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you.